Welcome. Welcome to Cox Corner. You just heard Mark coughing away while we're gearing up. Welcome to Cox Corner. My name is John Voth. I'm here with Mark over there and then Dexter over here. We are reading Harry Potter every single day for an hour. I've never read them before. Don't know anything. Please don't spoil anything in the comments because we're having a fun time. We're having a great time together. I just found this again. It's my fart machine. Hear that? I got my fart machine. Just for some reason. Isn't that the best? So, a couple things before we start. There is a Discord channel, a Discord server. It's in the comments. The link will be in the comments, or you can find it also in my Instagram bio. Oh no, do I?
Oh my gosh, I keep on forgetting. Well, I'm testing it. I do a little test every single time to see is everything working. I got the helium voice again. Well, I'll keep on making those mistakes. It'll happen. So I got that Discord link either in the description of this video or in the link in my bio on Instagram. So if you want to join in just various discussions, the spoiler-filled territory, which I'm just not looking at, and the non-spoiler-filled territory where I can engage. Also on the Patreon, I'm changing things up a little bit. On Mondays, for a certain tier there, we are reading, after I do these reads, we're going to do live reads of the Goldfinch, which we've been doing, but now we're going to do it live. And we're doing it live! And then on every second Tuesday, we're going to do, after the Harry Potter reads, we're going to do the short stories that I'm reading. Right now, reading The Illustrated Man. There's some really, really awesome short stories in there. I just loved it so much. So if you want to check that out, it's also in the links everywhere. Do whatever you will with that. I don't care! I don't care at all. Okay, let's get started again. Where did we end off? He was going into a lot of what do you call it? Detention. He was going into detention with Umbridge. Umbridge basically tortured him, drew blood every single evening. I can't imagine what that would do to Harry's PTSD. And Ron became keeper. What else happened? What else happened? She's horrible. Oh yeah, and they were saying, go tell Dumbledore that your scar hurt. And he's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. And that's where we ended off. The next chapter is called Percy and Padfoot. So Percy's coming back. He better redeem himself, because holy smokes, he's the worst right now. All right, there's a link to the Discord in the description, Miguel. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to do the tiniest one. How's that? Wait, I don't even have to put my face close. I'll just do this. Actually, that looks pretty weird. Okay, let's get back to it. Reading Harry Potter, book number 5, chapter 14. We're already past the halfway mark of all the books. Hey, John, Mark, and Dexter. Hello, Barbara Barreto. Love that name. BB. It's unfortunate I can't ban John. Mark. Chapter 14. Percy and Padfoot. Harry was first to wake up in his dormitory next morning. He lay for a moment watching dust swirl in the ray of sunlight coming through the gap in his 4 posters' hangings, and savored the thought that it was Saturday. The first week of term seemed to have dragged on forever, like one gigantic history of magic lesson. Judging by the sleepy silence and the freshly minted look of that beam of sunlight, it was just after daybreak. He pulled... Oh, it's just a tad... Titch too loud here with that music. There we go. That's a bit better. Just a titch. It's a little titch. Sorry. He pulled open the curtains around his bed, got up, and started to dress. The only sound apart from the distant twittering of birds was the slow, deep breathing of his fellow Gryffindors. He opened his school bag carefully, pulled out parchment and quill, and headed out of the dormitory for the common room. Making straight for his favorite squashy old armchair beside the now extinct fire, Harry settled himself down comfortably and unrolled his parchment while looking around the room. The detritus? Detritus. Don't know that word. Do you know that word? Detritus? The treatise?
Detritus?
Yeah.
No?
Well,
Are you saying it silly?
saying it silly? You look at the word detritus.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, insulting me. The detritus of crumbled up bits of parchment, old gobstones, empty ingredient jars, and sweet wrappers that usually covered the common room at the end of each day was gone, as were all Hermione's elf hats. Wondering vaguely how many elves had now been set free, whether they wanted to be or not, Harry uncorked his ink bottle, dipped his quill into it, then held it suspended an inch above the smooth, yellowish surface of his parchment, thinking hard. But after a minute or so, he found himself staring into the empty grate, at a complete loss for what to say. It's one of your favorite words that you say all the frickin' time? Detritus?
No, titch.
Oh, titch. I was like, Tasha's never said that word.
I think somebody said
Oh, detritus.
It means rubbish or trash.
Detritus. Detritus. Debris. Okay, yeah. It's a fancy word for debris. Oh, is that garbage? No. That's debris. Oh, no. That's detritus. This is like always another level of how you describe trash. It's like, but what's above the detritus guy?
Treasure.
That's treasure.
You know what they say, one man's trash.
Go on. For the good joke that you made. He could now appreciate how hard it had been for Ron and Hermione to write him letters over the summer. How was he supposed to tell Sirius everything that had happened over the past week and pose all the questions he was burning to ask without giving potential letter thieves a lot of information he did not want them to have? He sat quite motionless for a while, gazing into the fireplace. Then, finally coming to a decision, he dipped his quill into the ink bottle once more and set it resolutely on the parchment. Dear Snuffles, hope you're okay. The first week back here has been terrible. I'm really glad it's the weekend. We've got a new defense against the dark arts teacher, Professor Umbridge. She's nearly as nice as your mum. I'm writing because that thing I wrote you about last summer happened again last night when I was doing a detention with Umbridge. We're all missing our biggest friend. We hope he'll be back soon. Please write back quickly. Best, Harry. Okay, all very well concealed. Good clues. Yes, you got it, John. One man's detritus is another man's treasure. That was really good, Carrie and Wes. That's so good. Harry reread the letter several times, trying to see it from the point of view from an outsider. He could not see how they would know what he was talking about, or who he was talking to, just from reading this letter. He did hope Sirius would pick up the hint about Hagrid and tell them when he might be back. Harry did not want to ask directly in case it drew too much attention to what Hagrid might be up to while he was not at Hogwarts. Considering it was a very short letter, it had taken a long time to write. Sunlight had crept halfway across the room while he'd been working on it, and he could now hear distant sounds of movement from the dormitories above. Sealing the parchment carefully, he climbed through the portrait hole and headed off for the owlery. You know, I'm thinking this at least right now, this book seems like, you know, I said that one of the first books was like a thriller, right?
Yeah.
This feels a little bit like a psychological torment kind of
Yeah, that's
book.
a very standard genre of movie.
Ah, yes. Hey, what do you guys want to watch? A comedy?
No, I
a
want to
tragedy?
watch a psychological torment.
Okay, let's watch that. Saw it is. No, it's like it's not a thriller yet, but it has that component of he doesn't know what the heck is going on. Then he's like, there's that psychological warfare between him and Umbridge, where she's trying to break him, and he's like, no, you're not going to break me. It all feels very kind of, yeah, and there's just a lack of information. He's wondering. It's all very torturous in a way. Anyway, I could not think of where to go with that, Carrie. What about delight? I thought it needed to rhyme for some reason. Oh, you're talking about detritus. The next book is a musical and a parody. That's good. Oh, nearly headless Nick is back.
I would not go that way if I were you,
said nearly headless Nick, drifting disconcertingly through a wall just ahead of Harry as he walked down the passage.
Peeves is planning an amusing joke on the next person to pass the bust of Pericles halfway down the corridor.
Does it involve Paracelsus falling on top of the person's head? Asked Harry.
Funnily enough, it does,
said nearly headless Nick in a bored voice.
Subtlety has never been Peeves' strong point. I'm off to try and find the bloody Baron. He might be able to put a stop to it. See you, Harry.
Yeah, bye, said Harry. And instead of turning right, he turned left, taking a longer but safer route up to the owlery. His spirits rose as he walked past window after window, showing brilliantly blue sky. He had training later. He would be back on the Quidditch pitch at last. Something brushed his ankles. He looked down and saw the caretaker's skeletal gray cat, Mrs. Norris, slinking past him. She turned lamp-like yellow eyes on him for a moment before disappearing behind a statue of Wilfred the Wistful. Oh, yeah, Mark's cam. There you go. Wilfred the Wistful. Wilfred the Wistful. Mrs. Norris. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, Mrs. Norris is the cat who is Filch's cat. Yeah. I'm not doing anything wrong, Harry called after her. Harry. She had the unmistakable air of a cat that was off to report to her boss, yet Harry could not see why. He was perfectly entitled to walk up to the owlery on a Saturday morning. The sun was high in the sky now, and when Harry entered the owlery, the glassless windows dazzled his eyes. Hey, you want to look through us? Windows that are dazzling, man.
Oh my god.
If a bird comes, we'll kill it. Thick silvery beams of sunlight crisscrossed the circular room in which hundreds of owls nestled on rafters, a little restless in the early morning light, some clearly just returning from hunting. The straw-covered floor crunched a little as he stepped across tiny animal bones, craning his neck for a sight of Hedwig. There you are, he said, spotting her somewhere near the very top of the vaulted ceiling. Get down here. I've got a letter for you. With a low hoot, she stretched her great white wings and soared down onto his shoulder. Right, I know this says Snuffles on the outside, he told her, giving her the letter to clasp in her beak, and, without knowing exactly why, whispering, but it's for serious, okay? She blinked her amber eyes once more, and he took that to mean that she understood. Safe flight, then, said Harry, and he carried her to one of the windows. With a moment's pressure on his arm, Hedwig took off. You sound like the fart machine, thank you. Gah-gah-gah-gow! Hedwig sounds like she's constipated. 12-pack a day, Hedwig. Yeah, for sure. She took off into the blindingly bright sky. He watched her until she became a tiny black speck and vanished, then switched his gaze to Hagrid's hut, clearly visible from this window and just as clearly uninhabited. Uninhabited, yeah. The chimney smokeless, the curtains drawn. Still a little bit too loud for me, sorry. There we go. The treetops of the Forbidden Forest swayed in a light breeze. Harry watched them, savoring the fresh air on his face, thinking about Quidditch later. Then he saw it. A great reptilian winged horse, just like the ones pulling the Hogwarts carriages, with leathery black wings spread wide like pterodactyls, rose up out of the trees like a grotesque giant bird. What is happening? Just all of a sudden? It soared in a great circle, then plunged back into the trees. The whole thing had happened so quickly, Harry could hardly believe what he had seen, except that his heart was hammering madly. The owlery door opened behind him. He leapt in shock and, turning quickly, saw Cho Chang holding a letter and parcel in her hands. Okay, just a moment though. So, it's like a winged horse, black wings, rose up out of the trees, just did a circle and went back down.
Yeah, one of the horses that he saw that was pulling the carriage. That only he
Oh,
could see,
right. Okay. I'm kind of turning it back to not Cedric, the older brother who's a jerk from the Weasleys, Percy. I was kind of going back to Percy, the title of it, and I was thinking, oh, is that Percy? Is he swinging in on a black horse? That's what I was thinking. Okay, Cho Chang. Hi, said Harry automatically. Oh, hi, she said breathlessly. I didn't think anyone would be up here this early. I only remembered... Oh, am I making her Scottish? Lovely Scotland. Oh, hi, she said. I didn't think anyone would be up here this early. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like her Scottish. Maybe the movie made her that way, but I don't necessarily like her Scottish.
Who would you like?
Yeah. Oh, if you have any adjectives to throw out there, I'm open to it. Oh, hi, she said breathlessly. I didn't think anyone would be up here this early. I only remembered 5 minutes ago. It's my mum's birthday. She held up the parcel. Right, said Harry. His brain seemed to have jammed. He wanted to say something funny and interesting, but the memory of that terrible winged horse was fresh on his mind. She doesn't have to be. You do what you want. Don't do it. Okay. We all know Percy's not that cool. Yeah, true. Percy would not fly in on a rad black-winged horse. You're completely right. It'd be more like a feeble, bare-boned donkey that'd be flying in on. And Percy, I'm here.
Percy is Jesus.
Yeah, because Jesus wasn't a flying horse.
Donkey. Not flying, but a donkey.
Yeah, that's true. Bill or Charlie, maybe. Yeah, maybe. He wanted to say something, but the horse was fresh in his mind. Nice day, he said, gesturing to the windows. His inside seemed to shrivel with embarrassment. The weather. He was talking about the weather. Yeah, said Cho, looking around for a suitable owl. Good Quidditch conditions. I haven't been out all week. Have you? No, said Harry. Cho had selected one of the school barn owls. She coaxed it down onto her arm, where it held out an obliging leg, so that she could attach the parcel. Hey, has Gryffindor got a new keeper yet? She asked. Yeah, said Harry. It's my friend Ron Weasley. Do you know him? The Tornadoes hater, said Cho rather coolly. Is he any good? Yeah, said Harry. I think so. I didn't see his tryout, though. I was in detention. Cho looked up, the parcel only half attached to the owl's legs. That Umbridge woman's foul, she said in a low voice. Putting you in detention just because you told the truth about how he died. Everyone heard about it. It was all over school. You were really brave standing up to her like that. Harry's insides reinflated so rapidly, he felt as though he might actually float a few inches off the dropping strewn floor. She loves me! She's just like off in musical land. Who cared about a stupid flying horse? Cho thought he had really been brave. You loved me. You really loved me. For a moment, he considered accidentally on purpose showing her his cut hand as he helped her tie her parcel onto the owl. But the very instant his thrilling thought occurred, the owlery door opened again. Filch, the caretaker, came wheezing into the room. There were purple patches on his sunken, veined cheeks. His jowls were a-quiver, and his thin gray head disheveled. He had obviously run here. I just can imagine this old dude running. Mrs. Norris came trotting at his heels, gazing up at the owls overhead and mewing hungrily. There was a restless shifting of wings from above, and a large brown owl snapped his beak in a menacing fashion. Aha! said Filch, taking a flat-footed step towards Harry, his pouchy cheeks trembling with anger.
I've had a tip-off that you are intending to place a massive order for dung bombs.
Harry folded his arms and stared at the caretaker. Who told you I was ordering dung bombs? Cho was looking from Harry to Filch, also frowning. The barn owl on her arm, tired of standing on one leg, gave an admonitory hoot, but she ignored it.
I have my sources,
said Filch in a self-satisfied hiss.
Now, hand over whatever it is you're sending.
Feeling immensely thankful that he had not dawdled in posting off the letter, Harry said, I can't. It's gone.
Gone,
said Filch, his face contorting with rage. Gone, said Harry calmly. Filch opened his mouth furiously, mouthed for a few seconds, then raked Harry's robes with his eyes.
How do I know you haven't got it in your pocket?
Ginger Fabio. I'm just thinking that. I don't know. Fabio. Oh, Fabio. Bill's like Fabio with long hair. That's totally how I'm envisioning him too. He's just like this. He's not like trying to be cool. He's just effortlessly cool. You know, he just is. He is. He is cool.
Because?
I saw him send it, said Cho. I saw him send it, said Cho angrily. Filch rounded on her.
You saw him?
That's right. I saw him, she said fiercely. There was a moment's pause in which Filch glared at Cho and Cho glared right back. Then the caretaker turned on his heel and shuffled back towards the door. He stopped with his hand on the handle and looked back at Harry.
If I get so much as a whiff of a dung bomb.
He stumped off down the stairs. Mrs. Norris cast a last longing look at the owls and followed him. Harry and Cho looked at each other. Thanks, Harry said. No problem, said Cho, finally fixing the parcel to the barn owl's other leg, her face slightly pink. You weren't ordering dung bombs, were you? No, said Harry. I wonder why you thought you were, then, she said, as she carried the owl to the window. Harry shrugged. He was quite as mystified by that as she was, though, oddly, it was not bothering him very much at the moment. They left the owlery together, kissed, married, had kids, and died. He was quite as mystified... at the entrance of a corridor that led towards the west wing of the castle, Cho said, I'm going this way. Well, I'll see you around, Harry. Yeah. See you. She smiled at him and departed. Harry walked on, feeling quietly elated. He had managed to have an entire conversation with her and not embarrassed himself once. You were really brave standing up to her like that. No, you were really brave standing up to her like that. Cho had called him brave. She did not hate him for being alive. Of course, she had preferred Cedric, he knew that. Though if he'd only asked her to the ball before Cedric had, things might have turned out differently. She had seemed sincerely sorry that she'd had to refuse Harry when he asked her. Morning, Harry said brightly to Ron and Hermione as he joined them at the Gryffindor table in the Great Hall. What are you looking so pleased about? Said Ron, eyeing Harry in a surprise. Quidditch later, said Harry happily, pulling a large platter of bacon and eggs towards him. Oh, yeah, said Ron. He put down the piece of toast he was eating and took a large swig of pumpkin juice. Then he said, Listen, you don't fancy going out a bit early with me, do you? Just to give me some practice before training, so I can, get my eye in a bit. Yeah, okay, said Harry. Look, I don't think you should, said Hermione seriously. You're both really behind on homework but she broke off. The morning post was arriving. And, as usual, the Daily Prophet was soaring towards her in the beak of a screech owl, which landed perilously close to the sugar owl, and held out a leg. Hermione pushed a Knut, right, that's how I'm saying it. Hermione pushed a Knut into its leather pouch, took the newspaper, and scanned the front page critically as the owl took off. Who was disfigured by a goose? Fabio was? Oh yeah, he was in that roller. Wait, that disfigured him? I just heard he broke his nose, but did it actually disfigure Fabio? That is nuts. Shit, that's so nuts.
Like a goose riding a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
It's like only a thing that can really happen to Fabio is that.
That like reminds me of the story of Leonardo DiCaprio saving somebody who was drowning because he was just like chilling on his yacht. Like, can you imagine being in the middle of the ocean drowning?
Yeah, you're like alive, and then all of a sudden, what? What?
You're Leonardo DiCaprio? Like...
Knut? Yeah, that's how it's gonna happen, Tash. It's gonna be Knut. All right, let's get back to this Knoodling. Broke off. Oh yeah. The newspaper. Anything interesting? Said Ron. Harry grinned, knowing Ron was keen to keep her off the subject of homework. No, she signed. Just some guff about the bass player and the weird sisters getting married. Hermione opened the paper and disappeared behind it. Harry devoted himself to another helping of eggs and bacon. Ron was staring up at the high windows, looking slightly preoccupied. Wait a moment, said Hermione suddenly. Oh no! Sirius! What happened? Said Harry, snatching at the paper so violently it ripped down the middle, with him and Hermione each holding one half. The Ministry of Magic has received a tip-off from a reliable source that Sirius Black, notorious mass murderer, blah blah blah, is currently hiding in London, Hermione read from her half in anguished whisper. Lucius Malfoy. I'll bet anything, said Harry in a low, furious voice. He did recognize Sirius on the platform. What? Said Ron, looking alarmed. You didn't say... Shh, said the other two. Ministry warns wizarding community that Black is very dangerous, killed 13 people, broke out of Azkaban, the usual rubbish, Hermione concluded, laying down her half of the paper and looking fearfully at Harry and Ron. Well, he just won't be able to leave the house again, that's all, she whispered. Dumbledore did warn him not to. Harry looked down glumly at the bit of the prophet he had torn off. Most of the page was devoted to an advertisement for Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, which was apparently having a sale. Why is this important? Hey, he said, flattening it down so Hermione and Ron could see it. Look at this! I've got all the robes I want, said Ron. No, said Harry. Look, this little piece here. Ron and Hermione bent closer to read it. The item was barely an inch long and placed right at the bottom of the column. It was headlad, Trespass at Ministry. Sturgis Podmore, 38 of number 2, Laburnum Gardens, Clapham, has appeared in front of the Wizengamot charged with trespass and attempted robbery at the Ministry of Magic on 31st of August. Munch, who found him attempting to force his way through a top security door at 1 o'clock in the morning. Podmore, who refused to speak in his own defense, was convicted on both charges and sentenced to 6 months in Azkaban. Sturgis Podmore, said Ron slowly. He's that bloke who looks like his head's been thatched, isn't he? He's one of the odd... Okay, I just got to look over this again. Sorry, Podmore has appeared. He's arrested for forcing his way through a top security door in the morning. Podmore was convicted. Okay, so this is the dude who was in the Order of the Phoenix as well, right? He was one of the dudes who flew with him. Yeah, I think so. I love the newscast voice. Good. Ron, shh, said Hermione, casting a terrified look around them. 6 months in Azkaban, whispered Harry, shocked. Just for trying to get through a door. Don't be silly. It wasn't just for trying to get through a door. What on earth was he doing at the Ministry of Magic at 1 o'clock in the morning? Breathed Hermione. Do you reckon he was doing something for the Order? Ron muttered. Wait a moment, said Harry slowly. Sturgis was supposed to come and see us off. Remember? The other two looked at him. Wait, who's saying this? Yeah, he was supposed to be part of our guard going to King's Cross, remember? And Moody was all annoyed because he didn't turn up, so he couldn't have been on a job for them, could he? Well, maybe they didn't expect him to get caught, said Hermione. It could be a frame-up, Ron exclaimed excitedly. No, listen. He went on, dropping his voice dramatically at the threatening look on Hermione's face. The Ministry suspects he's one of Dumbledore's lot, so, I don't know, they lured him to the Ministry, and he wasn't trying to get through a door at all. Maybe they've just made something up to get him. There was a pause while Harry and Hermione considered this. Harry thought it seemed far-fetched. Hermione, on the other hand, looked rather impressed. You know, I wouldn't be all surprised if that were true. She folded up her half of the newspaper thoughtfully. As Harry laid down his knife and fork, she seemed to come out of a reverie. Right. Well, I think we should tackle that essay for Sprout on self-fertilizing shrubs first. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to start McGonagall's inanimatus conjurer's spell before lunch. Harry felt a small twinge of guilt at the thought of the pile of homework awaiting him upstairs. But the sky was a clear, exhilarating blue, and he had not been on his firebolt for a week. I mean, we can do it tonight, said Ron, as he and Harry walked down the sloping lawn towards the Quidditch pitch, their broomsticks over their shoulders, and with Hermione's dire warnings that they would fail all their owls still ringing in their ears. And we've got tomorrow. She's got too worked up about work, that's her trouble. There was a pause, and he added in a slightly more anxious tone, Do you think she meant it when she said we weren't copying from her? Yeah, I do, said Harry. Still, this is important too. We've got to practice if we want to stay on the Quidditch team. Yeah, that's right, said Ron in a heartened tone. And we've got plenty of time to do it all. As they approached the Quidditch pitch, Harry glanced over to his right, to where the trees of the Forbidden Forest were swaying darkly. Nothing flew out of them. The sky was empty but for a few distant owls fluttering around the owlery tower. He had enough to worry about. The flying horse wasn't doing him any harm. He pushed it out of his mind. They collected balls from the cupboard in the changing room and set to work. Ron guarding the 3 tall goal posts, Harry playing chaser and trying to get the quaffle past Ron. Harry thought Ron was pretty good. He blocked 3/4 of the goals Harry attempted to put past him, and played better the longer they practiced. After a couple of hours, they returned to the castle for lunch, during which Hermione made it quite clear she thought they were irresponsible, then returned to the Quidditch pitch for the real training session. All their teammates but Angelina were already in the changing room when they entered. All right, Ron? Said George, winking at him. Yeah, said Ron, who had become quieter and quieter all the way down to the pitch. Ready to show us all up, ickle prefect, said Fred, emerging tousled-haired from the neck of his Quidditch robes, a slightly malicious grin on his face. Shut up, said Ron, stony-faced, pulling on his own team robes for the first time. They fitted him well, considering that they had been Oliver Wood's, who was rather broader in the shoulder. 1 second, wait, I gotta moisten.
John's voice is dry, he needs to moisten it with some water.
Said Ron stony-faced, pulling on his... Okay, it fit him rather well. Okay, everyone, said Angelina, entering from the captain's office, already changed. Let's get to it. Alicia and Fred, if you can just bring out the ball crate for us. Oh, and there are a couple of people out there watching, but I want you to ignore them. All right? Something in her would-be casual voice made Harry think he might know who the uninvited spectators were. And sure enough, when they left the changing room for the bright sunlight of the pitch, it was to a storm of cat calls and jeers from the Slytherin Quidditch team and assorted hangers-on, who were grouped halfway up the empty stands and whose voices echoed loudly around the stadium. What's that Weasley's riding? Malfoy called in his sneering drawl. Why would anyone put a flying charm on a moldy old log like that? Crabbe, Goyelle, and Pansy Parkinson guffawed and shrieked with laughter. Ron mounted his broom and kicked off from the ground, and Harry followed him, watching his ears turn red from behind. Ignore them, he said, accelerating to catch up with Ron. We'll see who's laughing after we play them. Exactly the attitude I want, Harry, said Angelina approvingly, soaring around them with the quaffle under her arm and slowing to hover on the spot in front of her airborne team. Okay, everyone, we're going to start with some passes just to warm up. The whole team, please. Pansy Parkin. Hey, Johnson, what's with that hairstyle anyway? Shrieked Pansy Parkinson from below. Why would anyone want to look like they've got worms coming out of their head? Angelina swept her long braided hair out of her face and continued calmly. Spread out then, and let's see what we can do. Harry reversed away from the others to the far side of the pitch. Ron fell back towards the opposite goal. Angelina raised the quaffle with one hand and threw it hard to Fred, who passed to George, who passed to Harry, who passed to Ron, who dropped it. The Slytherins, led by Malfoy, roared and screamed with laughter. Ron, who had pelted towards the ground to catch the quaffle before it landed, pulled out of the dive untidily, so that he slipped sideways on his broom and returned to playing height, blushing. Harry saw Fred and George exchange looks, but uncharacteristically neither of them said anything, for which he was grateful. Okay, good. For a moment there, I thought they were going to make fun too. I was like, that would be a jerk brother move for sure. What are the names of Dex's gang members? Also, what is the name of Dex's gang? I think I can give you, not just, well, throw out some suggestions for names for them, and we'll decide on them together. All right? Where is he? Pass it on, Ron, called Angelina, as though nothing had happened. Ron threw the quaffle to Alicia, who passed back to Harry, who passed to George. Hey, Potter, how's your scar feeling? Called Malfoy. Sure you don't need to lie down? It must be, what, a whole week since you were in a hospital wing? That's a record for you, isn't it? George passed to Angelina. She reversed passed to Harry, who had not been expecting it, but caught it in the very tips of his fingers and passed it quickly to Ron, who lunged for it and missed by inches. Come on now, Ron, said Angelina crossly, as he dived for the ground again, chasing the quaffle. Pay attention. It would have been hard to say whether Ron's face or the quaffle was a deeper scarlet when he again returned to playing height. Malfoy and the rest of the Slytherin team were howling with laughter. Okay, what names do we got here? Padfoot Woofers, Turge, Rolf, and Spot, Dex and the Chads. The Chads! One of them must be Snuffles, Dex and the Puppy Posse, Moody, Padfoot, to Dex's Corner, Border Collies of the Kleenex, Barking Up the Wrong Tree Motorcycle Gang. Nice. These are all great. Where are we? Okay, yeah. It would have been, oh yeah. On his third attempt, Ron caught the quaffle. Perhaps out of relief, he passed it on so enthusiastically that it soared straight through Katie's outstretched hands and hit her hard in the face. Oh no. Oh, sorry, Ron groaned, zooming forwards to see whether he had done any damage. Get back in position, she's fine, barked Angelina. But as you're passing to a teammate, do try not to knock her off a broom, won't you? We've got bludgers for that. Katie's nose was bleeding. Down below, the Slytherins were stamping their feet and jeering. Fred and George converged on Katie. Here, take this, Fred told her, handing her something small and purple out of his pocket. It'll clear up in no time. All right, called Angelina. Fred, George, go and get your hats and a bludger. Bats. Go and get your bats and a bludger. Ron, get up to the goalposts. Harry, release the snitch when I say so. We're going to aim for Ron's goal, obviously. Harry zoomed off after the twins to fetch the snitch. Ron's making a right pigsy of things, isn't he? Muttered George, as the three of them landed at the crate containing the balls and opened it to extract one of the bludgers and the snitch. He's just nervous, said Harry. He was fine when I was practicing with him this morning. Yeah, well, I hope he hasn't peaked too soon, said Fred gloomily. Help him, dudes! Help him, brothers! Don't be jerks. Don't question him. They returned to the air. When Angelina blew her whistle, Harry released the snitch, and Fred and George let fly the bludger. From that moment on, Harry was barely aware of what the others were doing. It was his job to recapture the tiny, fluttering golden ball that was worth 150 points to the Seekers team, and doing so required enormous speed and skill. He accelerated, rolling and swerving in and out of the chasers, the warm autumn air whipping his face, and the distant yells of the Slytherins, so much meaningless roaring in his ears. But too soon, the whistle brought him to a halt again. "Stop! Stop! Stop!" screamed Angelina. "Ron, you're not covering your middle post!" Harry looked around at Ron, who was hovering in front of the left-hand hoop, leaving the other two completely unprotected. "Oh, sorry. You keep shifting around while you're watching the chasers," said Angelina. "Either stay in center position until you have to move to defend a hoop, or else circle around the hoops, but don't drift vaguely off to one side. That's how you let in the last 3 goals." "Sorry," Ron repeated, his red face shining like a beacon against the bright blue sky. "And Katie, can't you do something about that nosebleed?" "It's just getting worse," said Katie thickly, attempting to stem the flow with her sleeve. Big D and the Bullies. Dex and the Golden Trio.
Harry Barker and the Big D's.
Can you actually, because the very old text I can't read, can you actually just try and remember these names if you can?
Yeah.
Like the best ones. The best ones. Harry glanced round at Fred, who was looking anxious and checking his pockets. He saw Fred pull out something purple, examine it for a second, and then look round at Katie, evidently horror-struck. "Well, let's try again," said Angelina. She was ignoring the Slytherins, who had now set up a chant of "Gryffindors are losers! Gryffindors are losers!" Really creative chant right there. But there was a certain rigidity about her seat on the broom nevertheless. This time, they had been flying for barely 3 minutes when Angelina's whistle sounded. Harry, who had just sighted the snitch circling the opposite goalpost, pulled up feeling distinctly aggrieved. "What now?" he said impatiently to Alicia, who was nearest. "Katie," she said shortly. Harry turned and saw Angelina, Fred, and George all flying as fast as they could towards Katie. Harry and Alicia sped towards her too. It was plain that Angelina had stopped training just in time. Katie was now chalk white and covered in blood. "Whoa. Okay. She needs the hospital wing," said Angelina. "We'll take her," said Fred. "She, might have swallowed a blood blister pod by mistake." "Well, there's no point continuing with no beaters and a chaser." "Gone," said Angelina glumly, as Fred and George zoomed off towards the castle, supporting Katie between them. "Come on, let's go and get changed." Man.
So she didn't get a nosebleed? It was a blood
She
blister
did,
pod?
but they gave her something to eat, right? Fred and George did.
Right, yeah.
And they accidentally gave her a blister pod, I think it was called. So they messed up once again. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them in the last couple of pages. The Slytherins continued to chant as they trailed back into the changing rooms. "How was practice?" asked Hermione rather coolly. Half an hour later, as Harry and Ron climbed through the portrait hole into the Gryffindor common room. "It was," Harry began. "Completely lousy," said Ron in a hollow voice, sinking into a chair beside Hermione. She looked up at Ron, and her frostiness seemed to melt. That's really sweet and cute. That's a nice little sentence. She looked up at Ron, and her frostiness seemed to melt. What a great sentence. "Well, it was only your first one," she said consolingly. "It's bound to take time to—" Who said it was me who made it lousy?" snapped Ron. "No one," said Hermione, looking taken aback. I thought... You thought I was bound to be rubbish?" "No, of course I didn't. Look, you said it was lousy, so I'm going to get started on some homework," said Ron angrily, and stomped off to the staircase to the boys' dormitories and vanished from sight. Hermione turned to Harry. "Was he lousy?" "No," said Harry loyally. All understandable. It's understandable. His great pride of being put down in front of the girl he's in love with. I'm assuming this is like it feels like they're setting all this up, you know. And then Harry being loyal. That's pretty great. Nosebleed nougat. Some people are worth melting for. Ulf 2020. Ulf? Ulf? Oh, Olaf. Hi, my name's Ulf. Well, I suppose Hermione raised her eyebrows. Well, I suppose he could have played better, Harry muttered. But it was only the first training session, like you said. Neither Harry nor Ron seemed to make much headway with their homework that night. Harry knew Ron was too preoccupied with how badly he had performed at Quidditch practice, and he himself was having difficulty in getting the "Gryffindor are losers" chant out of his head. They spent the whole of Sunday in the common room, buried in their books, while the room around them filled up, then emptied. It was another clear, fine day, and most of their fellow Gryffindors spent the day out in the grounds, enjoying what might well be some of the last sunshine of the year. By the evening, Harry felt as though somebody had been beating his brains against the inside of his skull. You know, we probably should try and get more homework done during the week, Harry muttered to Ron, as they finally laid aside Professor McGonagall's long essay on the Inanimatus Conjurus spell, and turned miserably to Professor Sinastra's equally long and difficult essay about Jupiter's many moons. Yeah, said Ron, rubbing slightly bloodshot eyes and throwing his fifth spoiled bit of parchment into the fire beside them. Listen, shall we just ask Hermione if we can have a look at what she's done? Harry glanced over at her. She was sitting with Crookshanks on her lap and chatting merrily to Ginny as a pair of knitting needles flashed in midair in front of her, now knitting a pair of shapeless elf socks. She just zaps through her homework. Just zaps through her homework and there's I got time to save some elves now. John looks like an elf, probably. Types of... No, he said heavily. You know she won't let us. And so they worked on, while the sky outside the windows became steadily darker. Slowly, the crowd in the common room began to thin again. It's nighttime, it's nighttime. Oh, something got deleted. I didn't. I thought I deleted the whole lighting setup that I had made happen. And I was about to lose my shit. They spent... Where were we? And so they worked on while the sky outside the windows became steadily darker. Slowly, the crowd in the common room began to thin again. At 11:30, Hermione wandered over to them, yawning. Nearly done? No, said Ron shortly. Juniper's biggest moon is Ganymede, not Callisto, she said, pointing over Ron's shoulder at a line in his astronomy essay. And it's Lo that's got the volcanoes. Thanks, snarled Ron, scratching at the offending sentences. Sorry, yeah, well, if you've just come over here to criticize... Ron, I haven't got time to listen to a sermon, all right? Hermione, I'm up to my neck in it here. No, look! Hermione was pointing to the nearest window. Harry and Ron both looked over. A handsome screech owl was standing on the windowsill, gazing into the room at Ron. What is this Lockhart's owl or something? Who? I've flown in from a couple of countries over, but I'm not tired at all, and I'm ready to mate. This handsome owl. Isn't that Hermes? Said Hermione, sounding amazed. Blimey, it is, said Ron quietly. Blimey, it is, said Ron quietly, throwing down his quill and getting to his feet. What's Percy writing to me for? He crossed to the window and opened it. Hermes flew inside, landed on Ron's essay, and held out a leg, to which a letter was attached. Ron took the letter off it, and the owl departed at once, leaving inky footprints across Ron's drawing of the moon, Io. Oh, it's Io. Okay, thank you, Alicia. Drawing off the moon Io. It's definitely Percy's handwriting. That's definitely Percy's handwriting, said Ron, sinking back into his chair and staring at the words on the outside of the scroll. Ronald Weasley. Gryffindor House, Hogwarts. He looked up at the other two. What do you reckon? Open it, said Hermione eagerly, and Harry nodded. Ron unrolled the scroll and began to read. The further down the parchment his eyes traveled, the more pronounced became his scowl. When he'd finished reading, he looked disgusted. He thrust the letter at Harry and Hermione, who leaned towards each other to read it. Dear Ron, I've only just heard from no less a person than the Minister for Magic himself, who has it from your new teacher, Professor Umbridge, that you have become a Hogwarts prefect. I was most pleasantly surprised when I heard this news, and most firstly offered my congratulations. I can't even keep a straight face. Oh man, I wanted to just keep on reading until somebody said something, but I guess now everybody recognizes what the song is. The beginning, I was listening to this song, and the beginning sounds a little bit like it could fit into Harry Potter. but it doesn't. Anyway, I wanted to keep a straight face, I didn't manage to. Is that Jurassic Park? Wait, why is Jurassic Park playing? It just sounded a little bit like a Harry Potter thing. I wanted to play a prank and I failed miserably. Oh man. All right, let's keep going. It's so dumb. Okay, back to the letter. Dragons equal dinosaurs. Very true, very true, very true. I was most pleasantly surprised when I heard this news, and must firstly offer my congratulations. I must admit that I have always been afraid that you would take what we might call the Fred and George route, rather than following in my footsteps, so you can imagine my feelings on hearing you have stopped flouting authority and have decided to shoulder some real responsibility. But I want to give you more than congratulations, Ron. I want to give you some advice, which is why I am sending this at night rather than by the usual morning post. Hopefully, you will be able to read this away from prying eyes and avoid awkward questions. From something the minister let slip when telling me you are now a prefect, I gather that you are still seeing a lot of Harry Potter. I must tell you, Ron, that nothing could put you in danger of losing your badge more than continued fraternization with that boy. Yes, I'm sure you are surprised to hear this. No doubt you will say that Potter has always been Dumbledore's favorite, but I feel bound to tell you that Dumbledore may not be in charge of Hogwarts much longer, and the people who count a very different and probably more accurate view of Potter's behavior, I shall say no more here. But if you look at the Daily Prophet tomorrow, you will get a good idea of the way the wind is blowing and see if you can spot yours truly. There's a lot of this letter. This guy's a douche still. Life finds a way. That actually sounded more like Christopher Walken than what's his face. Seriously, Ron, you do not want to be tarred with the same brush as Potter. It could be very damaging to your future prospects, and I'm talking here about life after school too. As you must be aware, given that our father escorted him to court, Potter had a disciplinary hearing this summer in front of the whole Wizengamot, and he did not come out of it looking good. He got off on a mere technicality, if you ask me, and many of the people I've spoken to remain convinced of his guilt. It may be that you are afraid to sever ties with Potter. I know that he can be unbalanced and, for all I know, violent, but if you have any worries about this or have spotted anything else in Potter's behavior that is troubling you, I urge you to speak to Dolores Umbridge, a truly delightful woman who I know will be only too happy to advise you. Whoa! I think his hubris is that he has a bad judge of character. That's probably it. He's just like got no social skills whatsoever, or can't read people whatsoever, and so he's like, everything I do is right. Probably. Christopher Walken as Ian McComb. Yeah. Sneaking the theme from Chariots of Fire. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. 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 All Come on, Percy. This leads me to my other bit of advice. As I have hinted above, Dumbledore's regime at Hogwarts may soon be over. Your loyalty, Ron, should not be to him, but to the school and to the Ministry. I'm very sorry to hear that so far, Professor Umbridge is encountering very little cooperation from staff as she strives to make those necessary changes within Hogwarts that the Ministry so ardently desires, although she should find this easier from next week. Again, see the Daily Prophet tomorrow. I shall say only this. A student who shows himself willing to help Professor Umbridge now may be very well placed for head boyship in a couple of years. I am sorry that I was unable to see more of you over the summer. It pains me to criticize our parents, but I'm afraid I can no longer live under their roof while they remain mixed up with the dangerous crowd around Dumbledore. If you were writing to Mother at any point, you might tell her that a certain Sturgis Podmore, who was a great friend of Dumbledore's, has recently been sent to Azkaban for trespass at the Ministry. Perhaps that will open their eyes to the kind of petty criminals with whom they are currently rubbing shoulders. I count myself very lucky to have escaped the stigma of association with such people. The Ministry really could not be more gracious to me. And I do hope, Ron, that you will not allow family ties to bind you to the misguided nature of our parents' beliefs and actions either. I sincerely hope, in time, they will realize how mistaken they were, and I shall, of course, be ready to accept a full apology when that day comes. Please think over what I have said most carefully, particularly the thing about Harry Potter. And congratulations again on becoming prefect. Your brother, Percy. Blurg, puke, Rolf. The worst.
You suck!
He sucks! Ron reads this letter faster. Well, Ron's not reading it. I'm reading it in Percy's voice. He went to school with Harry for 3 or 4 years. You should know him better. That's true. You were killing his voice, though. It's just a amount of superiority and self-importance. Thanks, Natasha. You have a great British accent. How did you get so good at it? Thank you, first of all. In university, we did a whole bunch of plays which required PR accents, and I guess that that's what I meant, not PR. Yeah, RP accents, and just doing a whole bunch of plays out of school too. And just when I watch a movie with somebody with an interesting voice or an accent, I try to emulate it, under my breath. Might be annoying for other people watching, but I don't do it too loudly. I just practice, that's all. We're on such people. I know. Such people, Florencia. Ugh. Yeah. All right. Harry looked up at Ron. Okay, how much do we have left in this chapter? Okay, quite a bit. Okay, I'm not going to finish the chapter today, unfortunately. Actually, this is a good place to end. The letter ended. It's an hour. We're going to end here. Okay. So nothing too crazy happened in this reading here. Nothing too crazy. Ron and Cho got to flirt.
Yeah.
Ron and Cho. Well, that wasn't even flirting.
Not flirt, but they got to spend some time together.
Yeah.
And you mean Harry and Cho?
What did I say?
You said Ron and Cho.
Oh, Harry and Cho.
Yeah.
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 There was a black dragon that arose from the forest. Just keep reading. I'm meeting a friend after this, so I can't keep going. So, huh? What?
What kind of friend?
My buddy.
Oh yeah, your buddy.
Yeah, he's coming over. So that happened. Got a letter. Oh yeah, the whole Quidditch bit where Ron sucked because he was nervous. Okay, so again, she's got more room to maneuver and tell side stories and build the world a bit more. So that's cool. Mark needs a mic. We can barely hear him. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out how we can do that, because the problem is with 2 mics here, I don't have this is the best mic I have. The other mics I got to figure it out so that you don't hear us double, you know, when we're in the same room. I know there's a way to do it, but again, I'd have to spend time on it, and which I will do, but I just got to figure it out. It takes time up. Stop having a life. Gosh, I know. What's wrong with me? Remember when we were the only friends John saw?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
There was a point in time when you never went out and saw anybody else. You were here with us every day.
Yeah, you know, but since I've become rich and famous, I just gotta move with life, move with where life takes me, right? I don't gotta remember your name. What's your name?
Yeah, I know you don't remember.
Joy Gun. The good old quarantine days. Hey, who knows? A second wave might come around.
Shut up! Why would you put that out there into the air?
I didn't put it out there. The whole governments of the world did. It's not me.
Why are you talking about it?
John became popular and dumped all of us. Oh my gosh, everybody. I'm just having some friends.
Don't be a Percy, John.
Is John Percy? Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I am. Forget all about all the little people you stepped on the way to the top. Yeah, you all, I built my life on you. And all my viewers are just like, yep, thank you very much. Kick, while I walk up. Just kicking in the face while I'm stepping on your head. Why didn't we all get invited? Because I got invited. I didn't send out the invite. You cannot have a second wave if you did not stop the first one. I don't know what that means. Pyramid scheme. That is plan of my country's government. That's fair, Alicia. All right, friends. If you have any questions, throw them in there. I actually like that little scar. Kind of like it. It's a cute little scar. It's a cute little scar. I love how you can abuse John like this and he knows we're just kidding. Oh yeah, I love it. That's the best when you can hang out with friends and just make fun of them.
He's lying. He cries about it all night.
Stop it. Stop it. Don't tell him that.
Crying's okay, John.
No, it's not. It's not okay. And I'm not crying right now. I'm just, my voice is tired after reading for an hour. That's why it's shaking.
Right, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And I'm just tired of looking in the ring light. That's why I'm not making any eye contact.
Yeah, you're blinking away your tears.
Leave it on for your date. Yeah, it's not a date, it's my buddy. Keep that scar on for your date. Everybody's like, thinks it's a date. Can't believe you betrayed your friends like this, John. Hey, Punt! Hey, Punt! That's your name, Punt. Real friends reveal their names to each other, okay, Punt? Love you all. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. You are loved, you have value, you have meaning. Bye-bye from me, Mark and Dexter. See you later!